Welcome to Movie Phone. If you know the name of the movie you would like to see, press 1.
1.
You have selected
Star Trek.
My Dinner with Andre.
Wanted Star Trek.
Hello and welcome to A Star to Steer Her By, a Star Trek cast.
Indeed. Yep.
A Star Pod Trek cast.
Free flow.
That was as good as it's gonna get, guys. I'm sorry. This is episode 42.
Woo! We gave Jake sugar. This was a mistake.
Speaking of which, my name's Jake, and today I'm joined by
Chris,
Ames,
And Caitlin.
And today we're gonna engage.
Hey.
We should save that for TNG. We're going to be talking about the first 2 episodes of Star Trek, the animated series. And I use the term animated very loosely here.
Oh.
The first episode we'll be talking about is Beyond the Farthest Star. And the second episode is Yesteryear.
I feel like you're drawing bingo numbers.
Let's do a brief synopsis. So before we go into the synopsis, we should mention that these are, in fact, cartoons. That's what we mean by animated.
This is after TOS was canceled.
The style of the animation is, it's like if you took Hanna-Barbera quality and then paid half as much for it.
Took Hanna-Barbera quality and actually took video of it from your phone while it was playing on a VHS tape on your television.
It's not even that.
that would still move more.
Yeah, that would still have more movement and continuity between shots.
Oh my god.
Heavens to Murgatroyd!
So, in Beyond the Farthest Star, well, the intrepid crew of our Enterprise, the whole crew is back, even Chekhov, who has gone through a deep fryer.
Growing another arm, too.
Yeah.
Doc was a little drunk when he was doing the surgery.
Yeah. No, I like to, I'm sure we'll meet the new navigator or whatever he's supposed to be that replaces Chekhov, because Chekhov is not in this show.
Because they couldn't afford the ham sandwich he was
couldn't
asking
afford,
for
They
per
couldn't
episode.
afford Walter.
No, you know what it was? It's not they couldn't afford it. He was like, you know what? I am done. Every week it's here's $20 and maybe Shatner does not want seconds. He always wants seconds!
I like how Walter is in character as Chekhov.
He
At all times.
He just can't help it. He's that, when he's on set, he is Chekhov. He is a
method.
consummate professional.
Seriously, method. I bet he's not.
Yeah,
I feel like he wasn't. I bet he pinched girls' butts and made lots of
that's
nasty.
What Chekhov would do.
But I mean, that's why I think Walter Koenig would do it.
But yeah, so the entire cast from the original series is back as the voices of their respective characters, except for Walter. So in Beyond the Farthest Star, it's our premiere, our pilot. I don't know if it's a pilot. It's probably not a pilot. It's probably just the premiere. They probably didn't do a pilot. The Enterprise is still on their 5-year mission, so this is still part of that. They encounter in space some sort of weird alien ship that no one has seen anything this big before. Even though it doesn't look that big.
No, I thought Balok's ship was bigger.
So they beam over. They find that they're the ship is these pods that are connected. They have these cool life support belts that they can walk around in space instead of having spacesuits.
So they don't have to animate them.
Yeah. Although it probably would have been easier not to just have spacesuits moving anyway. And they find that this ship is completely abandoned and each of these pods that's on it has been burst from the inside. So they're like, what the fuck? And then they find the bridge and this weird alien dude comes on the video screen. He's like, you found our ship, you're fucked.
Except it was way harder to understand.
Yeah, there's slow mo.
Well, they had to be using the translator device to make it work.
So,
was this before or after the doors shut on them?
After the door shut. They got trapped in this thing. So yeah, essentially the video of the aliens you're fucked. So they beam out just in time as the ship blows up around them, and they get back on the ship and the Enterprise, and they've also beamed back with a stink cloud, like the classic Looney Tunes stink cloud, which proceeds to go into the ventilation system, and everyone's like, "Ah, who ripped one?" But no, it turns out that it's actually a sentient fart gas, and it takes over the Enterprise. And then we find out that it's like an organism that can communicate with technology. And
Technology parasite.
and it needs a host. So its previous host was the alien ship, and that ship was defunct. Like the aliens had disabled it, and that's like why it was all blown up. Now it has taken over the Enterprise. So like Kirk's like, fuck, Scotty, get ready to blow the ship, go do the get the self-destruct ready. And then this starts flying away. And then they like do a head fake on the thing. They're like, you know what, we're just gonna crash the ship into this planet, so fuck you. And then at the last minute before they hit the planet,
Was it the collapsed star? Or
yeah, it was a collapsed star, right?
Yeah,
yes.
because that's actually, they'd been pulled there first. That's what started all this.
Yes, this is
by
true.
the hypergravity or whatever.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
The alien leaves the Enterprise and possesses the dead star. And it turns out that it was just a fake out, and like Sulu he knew what he was doing the whole time. He wasn't going to crash the ship. They were just doing an orbit,
Doing some chicken.
doing a little chicken,
with
and
the star.
And then like there's
Star
this really
would win.
sad thing as they're flying away from the planet, and the alien's like, "No, don't leave me alone. It's so lonely over here." Oh.
Well, you could have just asked instead of being a dick then.
Yep.
So he gets the double bird as they fly away.
Yeah, pretty
Well,
much.
double dumbass on you.
You got double dumbassed. So that's your Beyond the Farthest Star. Yesteryear, all my Vulcans were over here. Good. So it turns out in Yesteryear, we've been doing a naughty thing and playing with the Guardian of Forever, because that's what you do. You just goof around. Let's go for a little trip. Let's go do the history and fuck some shit up. So they're doing some historical research at the Guardian. Kirk comes out. He's been gallivanting around in the past. He comes out of the Guardian, and Bones is there. He's like, "Oh, hey, Jim, how you doing?" And then Spock comes out, and Bones is like, "Who's that?"
What?
And Kirk's like, "You know Mr. Spock. He's our best friend for many years that we've been friends." And like that's how every introduction on this episode goes, because everything has to be explained. It's a kid show, I guess. And of course it's dun dun dun. No one knows who Spock is. What? So they beam up to the ship, and they meet this Andorian dude. I don't remember his name.
Thalius or something?
Yeah, Phallus.
Commander doesn't really...
Commander Thalen? I don't know.
Thalen sounds right.
An Andorian, and Kirk's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Why, Jim, I'm your first officer and best friend for many years that we've been together on this ship." So then through the course of the episode, we find out that, oh, here's what happened. This makes zero sense.
Nope.
Yeah.
While Kirk and Spock, they find out, and like this is another case where like the information does not get given out. Like there's so many things that's like, oh, if we had just told you all the information up front, we would have figured this out much sooner. But that's beside the point. So like through like prying information out of the other crew members on the ship, they're finally able to gather that a Vulcan boy named Spock was killed on his homeworld doing the Vulcan bar mitzvah ritual.
Basically.
And then Spock's like, that's interesting. I almost died on my bar mitzvah, except I was rescued by a distant cousin. And Kirk's like, did that distant cousin happen to look exactly like you do now? And Spock's like, you know what? You're right. You're smelling what the Rock's cooking.
You're thinking like a Vulcan now.
You're not a jabroni.
You're thinking do you smell what the Spock's cooking? You're picking up what I'm throwing down.
The people's
Kirk.
eyebrows.
Yes.
Hey.
So, anyway, so the explanation of this is that because Kirk and Spock were time traveling somewhere else, somehow that prevented Spock from time traveling to Vulcan to rescue little Spock, which he only does because...
The two historians, the bird creature and the bitch woman, were like reviewing the Vulcan timeline at the same time, and therefore because you couldn't be working it twice, it's like putting an aluminum foil in a microwave.
Yes, that makes more sense.
That's what
Yeah,
happened.
Something
that's
really bad
basically what
happens.
happened. They put
Basically-
aluminum foil into the Guardian, and it blew up.
There's a predestination paradox
So
here
big.
where Spock has to have rescued himself in order to be alive. Mm-hmm. And that's just how it is. So Spock goes to the Guardian and is like, okay, Guardian, show me my childhood. And the Guardian...
Survey says...
and the Guardian goes in, or Guardian shows him, and Spock goes in, and then he finds a little Spock getting bullied by the bad boys at school. And the bad kids are mean, and then like Sarek's a dick. And he's like, Spock, you shouldn't have hit that kid. And then we meet Spock's pet Daggett.
Sell it.
Ichaya, he was so cute.
I loved Ichaya.
So Spock's pet bear monster.
Sell it. It's a sell it.
Oh, it's a bear monster. It's like
It's more like a fat mountain lion.
yeah, that's true.
Guys, it's a sell it.
What Caitlin said.
Yeah, I feel like that looks like an animal from some Hanna-Barbera cartoon. I just can't remember which one. But anyway, so we meet Spock's pet, and then Spock's like, I gotta prove to my dad that I'm a big boy, so I'm gonna go out and do the ritual where the Vulcan kids have to do something at a certain age where they go out and survive on their own for a week.
10 days.
For 10 days, and then so Spock... Little Spock decides, I'm gonna go do that on my own without telling anyone. So he leaves, and the dog follows him, and sure enough, he gets attacked by a monster, and the dog has to jump in and protect him, and then old Spock has to come in and neck pinch the monster. And
How did you even find the neck on that thing?
they just showed it like. So he neck pinches the monster, and then little Spock is like, "You saved me, kind friend, second cousin Spork." And then it turns out that the dog got bit by the monster during the fight, and then little Spock has to run into town to bring back the vet, and then the vet comes. He's like, "Oh, there's nothing I can do for him now." And little Spock's like, "Oh, but I love him so much." But then he has to let him die anyway. They put him down. The old Yeller, the poor boy.
Dude, I cried. I legit cried.
I was close to crying.
I was like, I can't this fucking son.
So effectively, Spock has saved his young self, but he didn't save his dog, who the dog was alive in Spock's
that was
timeline.
confusing.
So apparently he didn't set it all back to normal. He just fucked it up somehow.
Well, you know why? Because it took him too long to remember that it was actually the week before. Oh no, probably right, something like that. He probably got there a second too late because he didn't remember.
Oops. So he comes back to the present, and he finds that everything's back to normal except Chekhov is now a horrible burn victim.
Before we even talk about the episodes, I think we got to talk about the animation. It was animated by Filmation, which was a low-budget animation company that did a lot of the DC comics. They did Ghostbusters, they did Fat Albert, and it was basically use as little new fucking footage as possible so that you don't have to do a lot of actual animating.
Yeah,
just move the mouth, the face can stay still.
Xerox that shit.
Yeah.
Now, Ghostbusters, did they do the cartoon based off the movies or that other one?
No, I think it was the other one, the original Ghostbusters.
You know what's funny though? Actually, I wonder if it's the same. Remember that? You know that horrible Phantom of the Opera cartoon that I have that I made you watch?
Vaguely.
I wonder if it was the same company.
Maybe.
Though I almost feel like Phantom of the Opera looked way better than this did.
Yeah, well, I mean, this just it was each shot was a static picture drawing of something, and then the mouths would move, or a hand might move, maybe.
If they were feeling generous.
I liked how in the first episode there was some early shots on the bridge where it was shown where sometimes the not Chekhov, the alien Chekhov guy, was sitting next to Sulu, and then in other shots it was a red shirt sitting next to Sulu.
Well,
in a way, that's actually a throwback to the show.
Yeah, they would sometimes use that. There was that one shot they using from the back of the bridge.
Yeah,
with clearly not Chekhov. It was that big blonde guy that he would just be sitting in his chair sometimes.
Oh, you know what stat I found that's kind of amazing is that the animated series, Star Trek the Animated Series, was the most expensive animated series of the time because they had to pay all of the original cast, except for Koenig, but because their cast was so expensive.
I see.
The first 2 or I believe 3-ish episodes that they did, they got the whole cast reunion. I'll see each other again after I think 4 years-ish or 3 or 4 years-ish. Get them all back together. They all did their voices at the same time, but in episodes after that, they did them separately, all in just soundproof rooms individually. They would do Kirk when he was away doing Broadway or wherever, just on location wherever he was at any given time, which means you're not getting the response kind of feel to it that, it's like you're really acting with your partner. You're acting alone in a room.
Isn't that how a lot of stuff is done nowadays?
That is how a lot of I mean, I don't know when it started, but generally speaking, that is how most American animation is done.
It's weird to me.
They very rarely have all the actors in a room together.
I think they will sometimes for film.
No, even like your average big budget like Disney movie, they usually don't have the actors together.
How do you get like the emotional connection?
I don't know.
Really
that
good
weirds
acting.
me out.
That's just how good some voice actors are.
I mean, I was already feeling in these 2 episodes, and it's partly because the animation style, you can't tell when they're looking at each other, and they don't have facial features. Like I think was it in The Farthest Star? It's in there. It's in The Farthest Star when Kirk is getting zapped by the alien in charge of the ship, that you see an actual expression on his face that isn't just blank and apathetic.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it is. It's pretty much the norm in American animation to not have your actors together.
I can imagine that's like a schedule kind of payroll problem too.
Maybe.
So,
but yeah, and again, it's relative. I mean, I'm sure there are some that do it other ways. And I know from what I've read, it is more common, for example, in Japanese animation to have your cast together. I don't know how other countries do it. I only know about us in Japan. But that's actually normal.
Yeah, because you also have to separately mic them and make sure you don't get mic bleed, or put them each in their own little soundproof rooms or something. But
yeah, I mean, the advantage is probably if you're one of the later ones, you probably get the pre-recorded lines from your castmates. Otherwise, I think you're fed lines by like the director or something. Yeah, the animation is... I mean, I wasn't expecting much because, from like the 60s through the early 80s, American animation was infamously terrible. It was the rule of Hanna-Barbera and Filmation and other low-budget outfits cranking out garbage. But even so, man, some of this shit made Hanna-Barbera look like fucking 40s Warner Brothers.
see, the funny thing is, like, the animation looked bad, but some of the art was really good. Like, the alien ship in Beyond the Farthest Star, I thought was really cool.
It was a neat idea, yeah.
It was a nice-looking ship, like the spider bee ship.
Yeah.
Spun by spiders honeycombed like bees.
I can already tell just from these 2 episodes that one clip of Kirk running where it's like, if you at home have watched, which you should be.
Should watch this.
It's on Netflix, you have no excuse.
And I think Amazon if you have Amazon Prime. Might even be on Hulu. Anyway. But there's this one shot they keep using of Kirk, like, sort of
throws up his forearm.
Yeah, and he's running, like, shoulder first at the camera. Like, you feel like he's trying to do the Dracula cape over the face thing.
Yeah.
Like, blah, I'm Captain Kirk. But he's running. It's like,
I think they don't quite know how people run.
They don't.
Because we see the close-ups where they're running shoulder first, hunched over like they're leaping in. And then whenever you see them, like, in the distance, when they animate them as silhouettes, because cheap, they're kind of just skip prancing.
Yeah. Oh god, I really wish they hadn't tried to put the star inside the arrowhead.
Why?
It just takes up... Yeah, like Kirk's little button commands, it takes up most of his badge.
Oh, no.
Well, again, it's just extremely inconsistent between shots.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was like... and other times it wasn't.
Yeah, like they just shouldn't have bothered with it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a not necessary detail. And like...
No one would have missed it.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely seemed... It has the air of, oh shit, this is due next week? Fuck.
It kind of does.
The other funny thing that I read online somewhere was that they canceled the original series, and then NBC got the updated Nielsen numbers because, I guess Nielsen, the whole system had to be updated because they were cranking out wrong numbers, and they realized TOS was actually pretty much a success.
No.
And they were like, well, shit. And I think they even went to Roddenberry to be like, so about season 4, maybe kind of yay? And they had already, like, deconstructed the sets and shit and gotten rid of a lot of crap. And it's like, it would be more expensive to put it back together to make it work again. And years later, they settled for animation or something, which some people consider like the 4th and 5th years of their 5-year mission. And some people are like, no, fuck that noise.
It astounds me that
canon.
To this day, fucking networks still treat Nielsen like it's fucking gospel.
Yeah.
It's fucking ludicrous.
How does Nielsen work exactly?
I don't know. I know we were a Nielsen family at one point. And they just sent, this was the 90s. They sent us just like a little booklet to record our TV viewing habits for like a couple of weeks, and then we mailed them back.
That's how it used to work. It would be...
So it's a random sampling of people willing to do this?
You get paid to be... Well, you get paid.
Yeah, but the people willing to do this, even for pay, are probably people who aren't representative of the fucking culture.
Yeah, and it's a self-report, so you basically say what you were watching when. And then it was...
I wasn't watching nothing but porn, I swear.
Yeah, and then like the
Definitely
last 20 years or so, it's
Star
since been
Trek.
updated so that there's actually a set-top device.
Yeah, they plug it into your TV, right?
Yeah, and it actually... And like it's gotten pretty sophisticated, so it doesn't just monitor... Like it used to just like tap into your TV's antenna or something to figure out what you're tuned to, but now it actually has like audio pickups, I've heard, so that like
The NSA can hear your secret plots and thoughts.
At least Nielsen can. So like it can listen to like if you're watching something on an iPad or something, it can hear it.
That's horrifying.
Does, like,
if you murder your wife, they'll know.
It can also tell if you're actually just fucking during whatever was on TV instead of saying
like
this gets me so hot, guys.
Just Shazams. It can Shazam pretty much
What
anything
if
you're watching.
What if you leave something on and accidentally like go out and aren't actually watching the program?
You just fucked everything up.
Yeah, you fucked up the number.
Well, I mean,
You just gave Star Trek the original series a 4th season.
like in this day and age, though, seriously, like they have to give people individual boxes. I mean, they really can't just tell what everyone's watching these days automatically.
I think now they probably could, but I think Nielsen has probably a monopoly on.
They probably do.
The analytics
And I think
for that.
Do they include? I don't know if they have yet. If they've started including time-shifted watching, like I know at first they weren't including people watching on demand later, or
like
things
like DVRing something.
yeah,
Or,
yeah, they weren't taking account of that, which is the
I feel like
problem. Of
almost
course,
everyone does that.
right?
now.
No one does appointment television anymore, basically.
Well, yeah, they definitely. I think they have changed it, but I think it falls
It took
under a
them-
different category too.
Yeah.
because they have like different categories. They have like watch the show live, and that's a category. And then they have like watch a show within 24 hours of being live.
I mean, the short version is they're still fucking garbage, and the fact that networks act like they're good at what they do is fucking laughable.
I mean, the problem is I just think for networks, there's not much of a better way for them right now, other than
Facebook poll.
Yes, Facebook poll. You know, obviously, like something like Netflix. I think that's one of the big reasons why every company wants their own streaming service, like CBS.
Yeah.
You know, because then they can actually see literally who is watching and what they're watching, when they're watching it, and then they have all that data.
Yeah. Problem is they're a little late to the party.
Yeah.
Shitty animation aside, that theme is also garbage.
I wasn't a fan.
It's like really jazzy and
One of our listeners commented on our Facebook page. I think it was definitely Eric. I think what he said, it's like a game show theme.
Yeah, he's right.
I can kind of see that. I also thought maybe variety show.
I just think it's generic like 70s TV
Well,
show.
it's very 70s, but one of the more upbeat ones that again you would see on like a game show, a variety show, or something. It feels wrong for this either way. It's too peppy.
I mean, who is this for? Is my question. Whose target audience is the animated series?
I'm sure it was obviously a kid show.
Because it was. I mean, it was nominated and won an award for best animated children's program.
Yeah,
There we go then.
Yeah, it was probably. I mean, I don't know if it was actually aired on Saturday mornings, but it's essentially a Saturday morning
I
cartoon.
think it was.
I miss those days. Saturday morning cartoons were the best.
Yeah, Gilligan's Planet.
Is that a real thing?
Yes.
Yes,
Stop.
Nope.
When?
it's from like the early '80s.
Oh, it was
It
way
was
before
before
my
our time. But yeah, I think that was also a Filmation show.
Fucking
Oh
probably.
no.
So, should we actually talk about the episodes more directly?
Yeah, sure.
They were bad.
No.
They weren't that bad.
I didn't think they were bad.
Like, the first one was okay.
It's hard to get into when you're trying to figure out this animation style and be fed the exposition by still frame Spock.
It's not just that though. I mean,
The first one was okay. I'll give it credit for...
The ending was interesting.
We'll get to that.
Oh, I liked it.
It feels like, it did in some ways feel like an original series episode, because it's like, oh god, weird spaceship, we're stuck in an area we gotta figure out, and then, oh god, we know things are bad because the phasers have been depowered, which I think that was a point you made ages ago, Jake. Or someone did. Like, that's how you know shit was bad in TOS. The phasers are broken.
Yeah, and the communicators are broken.
Yeah.
And the tricorders are broken.
Yeah. And then they get to the ship, and oh look, the Enterprise has been taken over again.
by an alien.
It was a pretty tired plot.
It was. It was like, this feels just like the garbage I was getting bored of by the end of the third season.
It was basically Charlie X, but with an alien that looked like a crab ant. What did you say?
Fart cloud, like Jake had said.
What did you say?
I said crab ant. Because that was like the ones on the spider bee colony.
Of course, a cringe.
Oh, but they weren't the ones that took over the Enterprise.
No, they weren't. But you actually could see.
Yes, they
had new faces that aren't just people in makeup.
Yeah, I mean that is a nice thing that the animation allows, is that they can have crazier aliens, like the giant Birdman, and
crazier ships,
and weird Pavel,
and that's great. But everything else isn't.
I actually have a question. Which is it's more to do with the show than the episode, and I'm sorry. But you keep mentioning Chekhov, and I have to go there. Why was Leonard Nimoy willing to go to bat for Sulu and Uhura, but not for Walter Koenig? Like, did Walter Koenig, poop in his soup? Like, what was the problem?
Koenig owed him $5.
I kind of wonder, though...
Which he's only going to get paid back if he can get the $5 from the episode.
See, here's the thing. I kind of wonder how much they considered Chekhov as core cast.
They have Chapel. Chapel is present.
They showed Chapel in the background.
I mean, Majel Barrett. For any of the random women, it's Majel Barrett.
Clearly Amanda.
She was clearly Amanda. She's going to be clearly a lot of other ladies in the show.
But Sarek,
like how Doohan is most of the men in the show.
Right. Was Sarek actually played by Sarek's actor? Because I feel like
Mark
sounded
Leonard?
like him.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Thought so.
Yeah, DC Fontana was very happy about that.
But yeah, because I kind of wanted that, because Chekhov wasn't in that many episodes. Even
Sulu may have been in fewer
than Chekhov.
Yeah,
I
because
feel
of
like
all the
he has.
recording that
he was missing from a lot.
Was he?
Yeah.
And I mean, the three really. I mean, Uhura, Chekhov, and Sulu were not in a lot of episodes.
No, but they were all on the bridge, the most consistently, which to me means that they are.
I also know, and here's this might help with your question a little bit. I know that Nimoy went to the bat specifically because he wanted his friends to get work, because after the show was canceled, they're having trouble getting work. But also because if one of the points of the show's casting originally was to be diverse, you get that diversity if you get Nichelle Nichols and you get George Takei.
That's true.
That's true. That is a good point.
And also, they figured they'd already checked the bad actor box with Shatner coming back to reprise his role, so they didn't really need another token.
Shatner, the voice acting from Shatner felt very phoned in.
All of it felt really phoned. Even Nimoy was kind of shitty.
I mean, I think maybe Nimoy, just because he's got such a distinctive voice, sounded better to me. And,
maybe. And
I felt like DeForest Kelly did a good job. He didn't have a lot of lines in these episodes, but when he spoke...
This goes back to the whole idea that, if you're doing voice acting alone in a cube, not acting off of your friends, and doing it only, all your medium is your voice.
Yeah.
And that's very different for actors, I think, than you get to act and use your face and use your hands and use movement.
It is a very different skill set between voice acting and acting, and not everyone can do both, and that's fine. I mean, there was a whole thing when the first Destiny came out a couple of years ago. It was a big deal because they got Peter Dinklage to be the voice of your little AI companion. Peter Dinklage is a great actor.
Great actor.
He is a terrible voice actor, it turns out.
Oh, is that the Wizard thing?
Yeah, Wizard Came from the Moon. His performance was so infamously bad, they eventually patched it out and replaced him with Nolan North, who was a professional video game voice actor.
Really? Ooh,
yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Burn.
Well, but
I think Peter's doing all right now.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, he doesn't need the money. But it's just that just goes to show that voice acting isn't automatically something you can do just because you're a good actor.
And Peter Dinklage is a good actor, and Shatner, well...
But yeah, beyond the Farthest Star.
Farthest Star.
I was thinking that too. I thought that earlier.
Yeah, the ending, though, it was
It was very Charlie X.
It was, but it was again,
just, and I love Charlie X.
You do, but we didn't... I feel like we just didn't get to know the alien well enough. And it was just I feel like
they spent a long time... I mean, firstly, they're shorter episodes now.
Yeah.
They're, 25 minutes tops or something like that. But yeah, they spent a long time looking at the giant space bee ship before they got to the actual dilemma of the program.
Yeah. And it was just it was so overtly malevolent from the offing. It's I don't feel bad for you. With Charlie, it was all right, you had a shitty sort of situation. I still think you need to go away, but I do kind of feel a certain amount of, you could have turned out better if only. This weird green fucker is just like, fuck you, pal.
And
I feel like
30,000 years
so
old.
lonely. It was just a ruse thinking, maybe they'll come back and then I can fuck them.
Can we talk about what the fuck Scotty was doing with the warp core that he ended up getting trapped half in it?
Yeah.
Trying to activate the self-destruct mechanism because apparently it's no longer voice activated.
You have to climb inside the warp core to do this.
Yes.
Seems safe. And I think he lost 2 crewmen doing it.
And a finger.
And a finger! That was so good. I'm so glad. Oh, may you rest in peace.
But yeah, it was just like... I mean, again, I gave them credit. It's like, I'm bored to tears, but this does feel like an episode of TOS. Not a good episode.
Yeah, it feels a lot like an episode of TOS. Somehow it's too long, even though it's 25 minutes.
Yeah.
You spent way too much time on bullshit that wasn't the actual plot, and the animation was bad.
Yeah.
And the alien was just a green...
Fart cloud. Yeah.
Sentient cloud. I mean...
Yeah, I was honestly like...
That's
we
what
were
happens
watching
when
it.
you fart in the transporter, right?
It's true. I was like, if this is indicative of how this show is going to go, it's going to be...
Yeah, we're in
It's going to be a
trouble.
rough couple
ride.
of weeks.
Because Yesteryear was hot garbage.
No,
You
I
didn't like
liked
it?
Yesteryear.
I fucking detested Yesteryear.
Okay, isn't Yesteryear supposed to be the best one? Isn't it the one that gets the
Yeah, that was
highest
when
rating.
they had
rating?
like a
Best one, we are in
7.8
deep
or something.
shit.
It's the one that was written by DC Fontana before she didn't write any other episodes for TAS. I think she was still script editor. Or
Yeah,
something
the
like
credits
that.
have her listed as like story
Yeah.
editors.
I'm
She's
gonna pull up the animated series
What?
again real quick to take a look.
Well, how the fuck did anybody read this script and be like, oh yeah, that time travel plot makes any sense at all?
I was very confused by the whole. You can't be running the Guardian of Forever in like dual mode and have it work or something. Like
Yeah.
those historians should know better.
But here's
And B, it still doesn't even make sense.
So here's the thing: adult Spock let's say prime timeline.
Yes.
right? Prime timeline, adult Spock doesn't exist unless he goes back in time to save little Spock.
Yep.
But he wasn't. So okay, and then beta timeline is with the Andorian first officer.
Mm-hmm.
So in that scenario, old Spock does exist, but only because he was protected by being inside the Guardian at the time.
Yep.
With Kirk, and Kirk is the only one who remembers him.
Right. So and because of that, he has to go back in time to save young Spock.
Yep.
So what was the impetus for old Spock to go save young Spock in the prime timeline?
Exactly.
There's no reason for him to ever do that. Yet he remembers being a child and being saved by himself.
Like, it seems like, if anything, the timeline with the Andorian first officer was actually the right one.
That's the alpha timeline.
And
yes.
that somehow something went wrong at some point, but because Kirk thinks that's the right timeline, he's gonna fuck everything.
Yeah, we have to.
Maybe the Guardian just threw them into the other dimension or something.
Just because he was bored.
The mirror universe.
Also, can we talk also about how the fact that the Guardian functions very inconsistently, in that when we first met the Guardian, people on the planet were all protected from the timeline change.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
But in this time, they're not. But at the beginning of the episode, when Kirk comes out with Spock, McCoy doesn't recognize Spock.
Right.
So obviously, the effect of the timeline change doesn't extend to the surface of the planet.
Nope.
Maybe McCoy just beamed down.
Did you also notice that the Guardian talked like that?
Yeah, he did have a different voice.
Yeah, it
Completely
was
different.
doing this time because they didn't get the original Guardian.
But why do they say, all right, so don't only not try to do an impression of the because the original Guardian talked normally, it just had a big booming voice. He did this weird wizard thing.
Dr. Venture!
Which was just so obnoxious.
Also, Doohan can do
Yeah!
the voice.
So I don't know
What
why.
did James think he was doing?
Why assume it was
I'm just gonna keep making that joke.
That's a good
It never
joke.
gets old.
And then what else? What else was stupid? I mean,
Well,
a
here's
lot of it,
here's
but-
the other thing too. At the end of the episode, when they come out of the Guardian, I think it's Bones that's also there. now, like, theoretically, he should have no idea what they were doing in The Guardian if we're following the same rules that applied at the beginning of the episode. But now he's following City on the Edge of Forever rules because he remembers them going into The Guardian to save Spock.
No,
it's Kirk. Kirk is on the surface, and he remembers.
Yeah.
And so at the beginning of the episode, people...
These two fucking nerds.
Yes.
I'm just lost in the logic.
So at the beginning of the episode, Spock comes out of the Guardian, and Bones doesn't recognize him.
Yes.
Even though he'd been on the surface.
So we know, regardless of what happened in City on the Edge of Forever, now we know that if you're on the surface and the timeline changes, you change with it. Except at the end of the episode, Spock comes out of the Guardian and Kirk's waiting for him, and Kirk's like, "Oh, did you save yourself?"
Yeah, mission accomplished?
So now, in this timeline, he wasn't affected by the timeline. So, because theoretically, Kirk on the surface should have never experienced any of that stuff.
Right. So we're like, why are you jumping out of there now?
Yeah, boy, I've been here for hours, dude.
I will give them credit for the fact that the jumping out of the Guardian effect was right.
Yeah.
And that they had that weird sort of slow motion effect that they'd had in the show, so kudos to that. Also, why the actual pissing fuck, right? This makes no sense. These historians were like, we've got this goddamn portal. We can look at the whole of time and creation. Let's check out Vulcan 30 years ago. You couldn't have just asked people?
I thought they were doing that after the fact to find out what had happened to Spock.
No, the reason Spock got fucked was because while Kirk and Spock were at, like, the ancient history of Orion, they were like, we're just going to change the channel and watch Vulcan 30 years ago.
You know what I'd like to know? Why was the Andorian so obviously a fucking villain when he had nothing to do at all with what went wrong?
Yeah, I was waiting for him to, like...
Because he wasn't Spock.
Well, because
He was
Andorians are always shown as duplicitous.
They said at one point Andorians are a warrior race, and I never I don't think I've gotten that impression yet.
I feel like in the Journey to Babel, they say something about like, we fight if we have to. But I don't feel like... But I also disagree with your saying that they're duplicitous, because the one that was duplicitous wasn't a real Andorian, he was an Orion. The other two were like... Shit, we don't know why anybody would kill the Tellarite. That's kind of fucked.
Although in Enterprise,
they
run with the warrior.
Well,
things.
we're not there yet.
No, I know, and this is well before it.
Yeah, so I think I'm tainted. By knowledge of what goes on in Enterprise. Like they're not they're just like they're kind of like
they're not duplicitous, but they don't trust anyone.
They're very Vulcan-esque in
They
Enterprise.
are, which is why them and the Vulcans butt heads so fucking
they're
much.
dickheads.
But they are more of a warrior race, so that does get built on eventually.
But
that's in like 30 years.
Not at Klingon levels.
He was like the ultimate red herring, though.
He was.
He shows up and he's like, I'm your first officer.
And he makes shifty eyes at one point.
It would have been way better if it had been a Klingon first officer, because then we'd
that really would.
Or a Romulan.
Ooh, but then Kirk would just be like, "Oh, I have a different Vulcan. Cool."
Racist.
But that would have been a whole thing if, like, it's like Spock.
Kirk can tell the difference.
No.
That actually would have been a bit more interesting. Though it's like, so Spock, if we let you die, peace with the Klingons. That might be worth one life, and Spock would have to be like, shit, it
The
might.
needs of the many.
But then, he wouldn't be there to save their ass in Wrath of Khan, and...
It becomes a whole thing.
A whole thing, yeah.
A whole thing.
Don't worry, they didn't originally consider the animated series canon until relatively recently.
Yay, canon.
Until I think...
Canon?
2006 when they released the DVDs.
Nice.
As soon as you can make money off the merch, it's canon. That makes sense to me.
Basically.
I can't wait till the Kelvin movies give us a creepy 3-armed guy rendered in full CG.
So like we were talking about the recycled animation thing. The thing that drove me crazy about this episode, because I did like this episode a lot, actually. I really liked it. Oh, and I did my quick research too. This is the highest rated episode. It got an 8.2 on IMDb. The show average is like 7.5 or something, 7.6 for the whole series. I really liked the episode. Again, I cried a lot when the Sellet died. But the thing that really annoyed me was when Sarek was like talking to Spock and disciplining him, and they just had the same sound bite of him going, "Yes, father." Yes, father.
Oh god, little Spock's voice actor.
Yes, father.
Little Spock's voice actor. His name, the actor's name was Billy Simpson, and he came in for the audition reel to do the lines and see if they wanted to use him.
Really impressed by his yes father.
And they called him up, and he's thinking, "Oh, good, they're gonna accept me." And he says, "Okay, so when are we gonna do our recording?" And they say, "We already did. We're gonna use your audition footage." So that's why it's not great. The Billy Simpson himself is not a fan of his work in this episode because it's clearly on audition.
Was he a child?
Yes.
All right, Billy Simpson, I forgive you then. Some duplicitous Hollywood types ruined your day.
Well, I hope he got paid properly.
I was just going to say, I bet he didn't. I bet they were like, we're using your audition reel, which technically is our property. We have to use everything to us, so toodaloo,
made him
motherfucker.
sign a release for the audition.
They probably did. They probably fucked him over, this poor little kid.
I hope they paid him.
Billy Simpson, if you're out there and you're listening, do please get in touch with us. Let us know if Paramount fucked you over.
It reminds me of, like, in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, when they told... You guys seen the film, the original?
Yeah. Of course.
So, like,
who do you think you're talking to?
Kid, I know, but I'm just saying, you never know. So, you know the scene where Grandpa Joe and Charlie have their I've Got a Golden Ticket singing moment?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know how Charlie Bucket sings like a fucking asshole and he's terrible? So, the thing is they had told him, like, we're gonna dub in a real singer over you so you don't sound like shit.
Yeah, like Peter Ostrom, by his own admission, was kind of like, I didn't think I was a very good singer. But they told him they were gonna dub him.
And they left it in.
And
they didn't dub him. And
he
so
was
now...
mildly horrified.
Well, at least that's worse. That's better than the poor actor that played Darth Vader.
Yeah,
Who
they didn't...
They didn't tell him that they were going to dub him. So when he
the poor guy.
He told all of his family, like, "Hey, I'm in the sci-fi movie Star Wars. We should see it." And then, like, at the premiere, he's like, "You can't see me, and it's not my voice. People are going to think I was full of shit." Although I think he is credited. I think, like, David Prowse is credited as Darth Vader. In Star Wars. And James Earl Jones is not.
I think they eventually added him later, though.
Oh, really?
I think it was actually James Earl Jones who asked not to be at first, or something like that.
Yeah, well, then he became
What a good
famous.
guy.
Anyway, Star Trek.
All right, Star Trek.
So you two liked this episode. I should I should let you talk about it because I mostly bitched about it for a while now.
I don't know if I could say I liked it. Firstly, I'm not a fan of this kind of animation period, so it already brings me a step out of it.
Sure.
And also, it was a story about children, which already brings me several more steps out of it.
Sure.
And bad child acting, which is more egregious. But it didn't also for Star Trek. It was just a Spock story, and almost nobody else. So that was a little strange, if I admit.
Yeah. It's a shame it wasn't a better one.
Yeah.
And I liked him, getting a chance to see his parents, and him being like, Sarek, don't be such an asshole to your kid.
Mm-hmm.
Someday, your son might light the living room rug on fire. Go easy.
Oh, yeah, they say... Oh, you're known for... the healer tells baby Spock... I don't know. You're known for pulling practical jokes.
But does anyone say that Spock, the son of Sarek, is a liar?
That's true. You're just a wise ass.
I actually liked that. I thought that was a great moment. That was a great, Spock using logic to get his way type of thing. And the choice about the Zealot.
Yeah, that was something DC Fontana and I think Roddenberry both fought for because they didn't... I think there was a lot of hesitation about including that on television, especially a kids program.
Yeah, it's hard.
Is showing them euthanizing a pet, and they were very adamant that they keep it because it's important to the story, it's important to Spock, and it's something, kids should see and be acclimated to.
Oh, yeah, I guess any kid, pretty much, that has a pet is going to have to someday deal with that in their life. So I guess that makes sense that they would.
Yeah, I think it's a...
as if then a parent could be like, oh, Spock had to deal with this too, Johnny.
Yeah, basically they said,
Billy
trust
Billy
Dorothy.
Simpson.
Trust Dorothy because she's going to handle it well, and then it sounds like they were happy with how it was handled.
Yeah, I liked that. I actually thought I really did cry. I was like, what the fuck is this cartoon doing to me? This terrible, poorly animated cartoon. And, even when he's, telling him, no, go back, you're too fat and old. And the thing was like, and I was like, oh, the poor Zealot. And that's when I knew it was going to die. I was like, oh, you're not coming back, buddy.
It was a little confusing that it wasn't meant to die in Spock,
right?
The man's timeline.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The whole actual science fiction part of
is
it
just...
was like fakakta, and I just went, you know what? I don't usually understand science fiction plots anyway. I'm just going to ignore it and focus on what I like. And I loved Spock with his mom. I just loved Spock doing Spock things. It was so sweet. Though I will call bullshit on being like, I forgot how beautiful Vulcan is. And he goes out into the desert and everything wants to kill him. I'm like, yeah, it's a beautiful homeworld you got there, Spock.
Actually, that's one thing that I've noticed that was interesting is even though the show wasn't apparently officially considered canon, you said until 2006, some stuff it seems did leak into the shows because there is still an area on Vulcan referred to as the Forge, which is this sort of awful, particularly nasty part of the planet. It didn't have weird tentacle plants or lizard poison things, but there was a whole episode of Enterprise that involved trying to get through the Forge.
It's probably big. It's probably lizard vines and monsters all over the place.
God, I hope not.
I just want to point out, too, that Khan in Wrath of Khan sure does kick up a lot of fuss for basically just living on Vulcan. Spock's like, how beautiful is my homeworld? And Khan acts like it's a big fucking deal.
But yeah, I couldn't get past the fact that the time travel made no sense.
Yeah,
I just couldn't.
Yeah, the time travel really didn't make sense. Here's the alternate version of this story. Spock goes back.
Jake's fixing this episode.
He goes out in... No, I'm not fixing it.
Oh.
He goes out into the... he follows the kid out, and then, right as he's about to save the kid, he sees another Vulcan that looks a lot like him run in and save the kid, and he's like, oh, shit! That was just my cousin.
Oh!
I would have liked that.
And then he's just like, oh, fuck, and now he has to...
How do I fix this?
That just makes Spock a racist because he thinks all his people look alike.
Then he has to kill his cousin and hide the body.
And then live out his days in the past as his cousin.
In his beautiful homeworld of Vulcan.
And watch himself grow up.
Knowing he will suffer the same fate.
I've always felt that way about Vulcan, though. That
it was beautiful?
No, that it looks like a fucking hellhole. It looks hard. It looks like Australia. No one would want to live there.
That's why they can't express any emotions. It's kind of like I laughed or stopped from crying, but it's really just I shut down my entire emotions, like just so I don't do nothing but scream in horror at every turn.
It does explain why they were assholes for so long. You know, I mean, sand gets everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's horrible.
Yeah.
Or whatever that line is.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I lived there, I'd be in a bad mood too.
Everywhere.
There it is, yeah. But yeah, no,
I'd like to know how they managed to keep all their super high-tech smart computers all good with, like, all that sand blowing around.
How do you feel?
What?
How do you feel?
Oh, huh. They just invented...
I do not understand the question.
Airtight computers really early. They all have that really high water and dust rating.
Like, whenever we've seen Vulcan, most of the vistas of Vulcan we've seen have been Amok Time, which was like a ceremonial place, so you can understand that being out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
And then we also see it in Star Trek 3.
Yep.
And it's like another ceremonial place, and it's the same deal where you can I can understand this being like some ancient site.
Middle of nowhere kind of thing.
Right, but like you would think that the cities would be just like regular cities, but they're kind of not.
No.
As far as we can tell, as far as we've seen.
Well, they definitely go there, again, like at least once or twice in Enterprise, but I don't remember if they show you any like establishing shots of cities first. You normally see a house, and the houses are much more normal than this weird 70s fever dream thing that they were living in this.
I feel like it looks pretty shit in the Kelvin timeline films too.
Although I do recall them having an establishing shot of the city where it actually looks like, but it's like still built onto a mountain though. So.
Yeah, that's one thing that's pretty cool. They've got the Vulcan Science Academy built down out from the underside of a cliff, which
Fuck that.
Yeah,
scary. Oh, speaking of which, I also did notice that the children picking on Spock scene in this episode was mirrored later in the Kelvin timeline.
Yeah.
Film.
Yeah.
I
was thinking that too.
I still say that is not Vulcan behavior.
It's basically the same. Well, I mean, it's kids' behavior. I think is the idea. The kids, Vulcan or otherwise, are still shitheads to each other.
Well, right, and because they even like Spock says here, and we've heard before, it's not that Vulcans don't have emotions. It's just that they've learned to control them, and kids, much like kids on Earth, don't understand morality, so they don't mind treating people like shit.
Yeah, but they're all at their age. What is their freaking...
They're 7. Or something.
Yeah, but they're about to do this maturity test, the Kazwan maturity test.
Those Vulcan
they should all
children
be
are-
there.
Those Vulcan children are gonna die.
They're gonna
Is
get
it 7? Did they say 7?
I thought he was 7, wasn't he? Or
Maybe.
10? Something.
No. Well, this is pawn far enough.
No! No! Damn it!
Konfar Mitzvah?
Ooh, that's weird.
Yeah, actually,
do
you're
you-
right. Fuck, no, I didn't mean it that
do you
way.
invite your whole family and
You definitely
Maybe on Vulcan.
but you already have your betrothed, so she would be there,
That's true.
or he,
Yeah.
or they.
Go on, Chris.
I had a thought and it just fizzled.
Alright, well, I had a quick thought.
Yes.
They, Spock, when trying to chat with Dad and not displaying that he's his son, is saying, "Oh yeah, I'm just here to go worship the Vulcan gods."
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Vulcan religion. So
I don't think-
who are their?
I don't think it comes up ever again.
What do they believe?
Is their god not Hephaestus?
No.
Nice.
Their god is science.
That's what I mean, though. I feel like they would have eschewed religion a long time ago. And I don't know for certain, but does the concept of Vulcan religion ever come up again?
I mean, they're definitely spiritual, but
That.
Spiritual, but not religious.
they're more like Eastern religion. What?
Yeah, they are definitely like. Yes, you're right in that it's like this is what your average sort of white writer thinks. They're Eastern in big scare quotes.
It's probably kind of like how in Japan a lot of people still practice Shintoism by going to the shrine on New Year's Day, but most of them don't actually believe in the principles of Shinto.
I suppose that's actually a good way to put it.
But it does reinforce your idea of Eastern religion, because obviously Shinto is a Japan thing.
Yeah, but
Japanese thing.
it's I don't know. It was weird, the idea I'm on a pilgrimage to worship gods, and it's just that doesn't sound logical.
Well, it could be like a pilgrimage type of situation too, where they just do it.
Yeah, but
Because it's
that's the
what's
thing.
always been done.
I would even accept it it's a pilgrimage to see fucking what's his name, guy that invented their logic and shit.
Fuck, I don't.
Yeah, Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah,
The
Vulcan Abe Lincoln.
Yeah,
Abe Lincoln.
to go see Abe Lincoln's tomb.
Oh,
you
the
know?
guy from that episode.
Sarek.
You mean.
No, Sarek's father.
Sarek is his father.
What did you say?
Sarek.
That's not it though.
No,
Okay.
it's.
Well, it's written in a card away over there. Sorry, I thought you were talking about Shintoism still.
Oh no, sorry. But yeah, it would just been a pilgrimage to see fucking Abe Lincoln's tomb there. That would have made a little more sense than the gods.
I like that his cover name is his dad's name, but with a switcheroo on the consonants. What's your name? Salek.
I never thought of that.
Selleck, yeah.
Silica.
Silica gel.
I was reading in the making of Star Trek at one point, and originally there was a memo going around about how, what the Vulcan naming technique would be. And for a while it was, there are only 5-letter names that begin in SP and end in K, and the middle 2 letters are whatever else. So it'll be Sprick and Spork and Spock and Spelk.
Thank God they dumped that.
Yeah, they didn't do that. They broke that rule the first time we met another Vulcan. So.
Thank God. Well, it seems like not always, but more often than not, it's usually the Vulcan women's names are T apostrophe. Not always, again.
I bet that's almost like I bet that's almost like a of so and so.
Almost every Vulcan we meet, their name begins with either an S or a T.
Tuvok.
I wonder if it's just that
Except Varys and
maybe
Maybe
the first Vulcans had men's names A and women's names B, and then they cycled through that, and the next generation was C and D, because if we got to, don't laugh, because if you said Varys was the next one, it was a woman, so that would STUV if they're the next generation or something.
Tuvok is T.
The one failing of this theory is that relies on the Vulcans using our alphabet.
Whatever.
Well, maybe that's the interpretation of their name using our alphabet.
Yeah.
There we go.
And actually, is Cybok spelled with an S?
Yes.
So it still works, except for Tuvok.
Well, Tuvok works. Well, not for your theory.
Because Varys came well before him.
Yeah, Varys would have been before. Although...
No, actually, he's pretty old, isn't he?
Because he turns 100 in Voyager.
He worked on the Enterprise... No, the Excelsior.
He worked on the Excelsior under... Yeah, he would have been before because he was on the Excelsior during the explosion of Praxis.
Yeah.
So, yes, he is older or of the same age as Varys.
So maybe they just cycle through.
I guess he could also be younger, because we have no idea how old Varys is.
That's
Although she
true.
was freshly out of the academy, though.
Wasn't she?
It was her first, yeah.
Oh, is that
Yeah,
Kirstie
yeah.
Alley and then somebody else?
No.
No, that's Kim Cattrall.
Yeah. Kirstie Alley was Saavik.
Yep. Who does fit the paradigm.
Anyway, sorry. Got off course again because these episodes are terrible.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that Vulcan had a moon?
That's no
Did
move.
it? Those
Yep.
fuckers.
Yeah.
Well, it has like 3 in the motion picture. So.
Roddenberry and Fontana both requested the animators not include a moon, but they did it anyway. By some
Fuckers.
Well,
some lack of communication.
I mean, in the Abrams film, I don't know if it's a moon, but there is an ice planet
Really nearby.
Within, like, not like closer probably than our moon is to us, considering how good a view Spock had. of the
J.J.
breakup.
Abrams has no fucking sense of scale.
Yeah.
In
this
his
is
Star Wars, in his Star Trek, he thinks the universe is really small. Like, I like his Star Trek movie. I even like Episode 7, but it is really hard to deal with the fact that he has no fucking sense of scale. For all we know, Delta Vega, or whatever it is that he dumped Kirk off at,
Hoth.
was in a completely different solar system. But as far as he's concerned, solar systems are like right next to each other.
This is true.
Well, yeah, but I mean, most people can't even
But I mean,
conceive of the
it's-
vastness of space, like the actual
He's
vastness of space.
particularly bad.
Well, I didn't even notice, so I'm obviously also particularly bad. I just assume that shit's always further away than it looks because time.
Objects in mirror are farther
Yeah.
away than they appear.
So yeah, I mean, what's everyone's sort of hopes and dreams for the rest of this based on the first 2?
I hope it's over quickly.
Did I fall asleep through some of the episodes?
I mean, it will be over quickly, which is the good thing. I think we will definitely, for now, stick to 3 per, just because the faster we're through this, the better.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping to at least see some more interesting art, like the spider beehive.
Yeah,
'Cause
like
that's at least something interesting.
yeah,
But-
you get to have bigger spaces, you get to have more interesting aliens and this and that. Maybe the writing will get better at some
I'm
point.
certain the animation doesn't.
No, that's gonna remain garbage.
Well, it'll probably actually get worse, to be honest.
Yeah, if
like
anything.
because there's
it'll be-
technically 2 seasons, and I bet
Yeah.
season 2 will look even rougher.
Well, I bet season 2 will just be all the same, like shots of Spock at the console from this angle and this angle.
Yeah.
With his face tilted this way or this way,
Yeah, those
and
were
that's
terrible.
all we get for any time they're talking.
Oh, it's gonna be a slog.
Yeah.
On the plus side, it'll make the opening season of TNG feel a lot better.
Yeah.
well, but
possibly.
also
We'll
to
have
be
the
fair,
movies
yeah, I
in
was gonna say, well, the
between.
movies in between. so-
Yeah, but also Star Trek 5 will be there, so that'll help as well. So with that, we have begun Star Trek the Animated Series. That seems about right. Please join us next week for One of Our Planets is Missing. Great title, guys.
boy, brother. Oh, where to go? Where in the world
so
is
clumsy.
Carmen Sandiego?
Dude, where's my planet?
The Lorelei Signal, I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Yes, and it's supposed to be good. It's supposed to be awesome. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, but fucking Yesteryear was supposed to be good. And more Tribbles.
More troubles.
I'm sure that won't be hot garbage.
I've got 99,000 problems, and they're all tribbles.
Oh, that's good.
But a bitch still ain't one.
Oh, God. So, please find and like our Facebook page, A Star to Steer Her By. We are also on Tumblr and Twitter as SSHB Podcast. Please do consider subscribing to us on your favorite podcasting application. And if you use iTunes, please give us a rating and review. For A Star to Steer Her By, this has been Chris.
This has been Ames.
This has been Caitlin.
And this is always Jake.
Thank you for listening.
Please don't leave us. It'll be over soon.
Oh,
So lonely.
that's a great laugh. Oh
Pointed
man, we gotta
eyebrows.
have a merch shirt that's Spock doing the Dwayne Johnson eyebrow.
I would love that.
with the Vulcan eyebrows. Do you smell what the Spock's cooking?
I think we should.
Actually,
I'm
what
in.
we gotta do is write to Paramount and get them to put Ston in the next Kelvin movie and get The Rock to play him.
Ooh, I like it.
I would fucking leave Zach Quinto for Dwayne the Ston Johnson in half a second.
Dwayne the Stonson.
Easy for you to say.
Dwayne the Spock's
Spots Johnson.
We'll eventually finish the synopsis.
Yeah.
No, we won't.
No, we probably won't.